Well, we've made it. The final book, at least so far, in our chronological journey through the works of Stephen King. Here are 19 Reasons to Read. Fairy Tale. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is a place where I'm talking to you about all things Stephen King. Do click around, see what else you might find here. Take a look at some of my specials. I'll put a random one up there, can't think of one right now. And if you like what you see here, do click subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Might have reached the end of the book journey, but there's still plenty more coming on this channel, I can assure you. And another thing for you to subscribe to, if you're in the mood, is my weekly email newsletter. Not only will you get a list of great indie horror authors for you to go and check out and read, and a free short story from me every week, you will also get, just as a thank you for subscribing, an electronic version of my mini collection, Mirrored, plus 10 tiny tales of terror. Yep, you get it for free just for giving me your email address. You can even subscribe, get the book, and then unsubscribe again if you want to. I won't mind too much, but the newsletter is good, so stick around for that, okay? Now, 2 and a bit years after I fluffed my way through 19 Reasons to Read Carrie, we've reached the other side. Fairy Tale, a book released earlier this year, 2022. And as I said in the intro, this is, at least for now, the end of our chronological walk through the works of Stephen King. Now, I'm going to give you 19 reasons to read this one, and as I do tend to do nowadays, I will cluster any spoilery reasons towards the end and give you warning before they arrive so you can bail if you need to. And also with Fairy Tale, if you want to see a generally spoiler-free kind of review/reading vlog of me getting this book and spending a few days reading it and getting a real sense of my thoughts as I went through it, then do hit the link up there. You can see my journey with Fairy Tale from a few weeks ago, back when this came out. But enough of that. For the last time, at least for now, here are 19 reasons to read Fairy Tale. So let's start with the reason King wrote this book in the first place, and it was quite simply to make him happy. Now, while COVID doesn't feature in this book, it was a product of the pandemic. King was looking on at the shitstorm of the world and realized he wanted to escape, and he wanted something to make him feel better. So he created another world for us to go to, and that's where this story ended up coming out of. A bit of escapism when everyone was looking for exactly that. So another reason that might hook quite a few of you in is this is King going properly in on fantasy. The title Fairy Tale is not an accident. He's riffing on old fairy tales to create a new one. And as I mentioned already, he gives us a brand new world as well, Empis. If you've enjoyed King's previous attempts at fantasy, chances are you'll like Fairy Tale as well. But it's not all fantasy. And actually the first quarter of this book is something very different, and something that I think, personally, King does best. Human to human, real life relationship building drama. The interaction between Charlie, Mr. Bowditch and Radar the dog really hooked me into this book, and for me were by far and away my favourite parts of it. So there are illustrations in this book, and they are terrific and really fit in with the fairy tale aesthetic. Now, the illustrations are done by 2 different illustrators, Gabriel Rodriguez and Nicola Delort. My personal favourite is for chapter 19, obviously. Pretty gnarly. So what's the hook of this one then? Well, we start off with teenager Charlie Reed, who is just an all-round good kid. In his shortish life, he's already had to deal with losing his mum through a hit-and-run accident, and then his dad becoming an alcoholic and subsequently recovering from his alcoholism. He's been through a lot, but he's come out the other side okay. Now, one day, he's walking home from school and he discovers the local creepy old man, Mr. Howard Bowditch, has fallen off a ladder and is seriously injured. And it's only through the cries of his dog Radar that Charlie discovers Mr. Bowditch. Charlie raises the alarm, gets Mr. Bowditch off to hospital, and soon forms a friendship with him. He agrees to look after Radar while Bowditch is in hospital, and then when Bowditch comes home, they just have this great friendship together. They look after each other, and Charlie takes care of the house, the dog, and Mr. Bowditch. So far, so classic King drama type writing. But then when Mr. Bowditch dies and leaves everything to Charlie, Charlie discovers what was actually in that shed in Mr. Bowditch's garden that he kept locked. And what was in that shed is a portal to another world. So just when you've got comfortable with the drama side of things, we kick into a fantasy story. Charlie and Radar go into the shed, down the staircase, into Empis, and off on an adventure. And the purpose of that adventure is to try and save that new, different world. Oh, and also de-age Radar on a magic sundial, because why not? She's a good dog. As you won't be surprised to know, with such a chunky page count, the time in Empis is a busy one. There's a lot going on in this land. Evil curses, mermaids, giants, savage blood sports played by prisoners, zombie soldiers, and loads of other stuff that I can't even remember off the top of my head now. A lot going on. As is often the way nowadays, a new book from Stephen King came along with a wave of overwhelmingly positive reviews. Not from me, as regular viewers of this channel will know. I did not like this book, but the more important critics out there, the ones with some actual real influence and power, all seemed to really like it. What can I say about that? You'll just have to read it yourself and make your own mind up. Unsurprisingly, Fairy Tale pretty quickly went straight to the top of the bestsellers charts, beating a load of other books, including, I happened to notice online, Where the Crawdads Sing. Now, that's absolutely well and good and right in the world, because much as I dislike Fairy Tale, Where the Crawdads Sing is fucking dog shit. So lastly, before we get to spoilers, while I can't guarantee that you'll like this book, I mean, I didn't, I do think it's worth reading, and I think you will find a bunch of stuff that will hook you in for at least part of it. For me, the first quarter is absolutely sublime, and then the rest of it depends on how much of a fantasy fan you are. But I think it shows the strength of King's writing even this far into his career, that for a book I actively dislike, I can still find a bunch of different reasons for you to go and read it, and a bunch of different highlights to point out. Pretty impressive. Okay, time for spoilers, so if you haven't read Fairy Tale yet and you don't want me to ruin anything for you, then please dip out here and maybe come back once you've read the thing. See you soon. Otherwise, stick around, because for the last time, we've got a few more reasons to read Fairy Tale. Okay, let's deal with the elephant in the room. This is a King book with a dog. A dog that faces dangerous situations. And the dog survives. Yes, finally, the dog survives. At last, well done, King. Now, maybe go and kill a cat or some snakes. Snakes. Who likes snakes? Snakes fucking suck. Kill some snakes next time. Okay, so in the first part of this video, much as I did have a few genuinely positive reasons to check this out, the relationship between Charlie and Howard, just the general first quarter of the book, and some of the fantasy stuff in terms of, well, he's built us a whole new world and there's lots of adventures and interesting things and creatures to go on. There are some odd choices in Fairy Tale that I'm actually going to have to use as reasons, because at this point, for me, I'm at the point where I'm running out of things positive to say, because as I said earlier, didn't like this one very much at all. So let's start with when Charlie first gets into Empis, and the first couple of people he meets there are women. What does he admire about them? You know, wouldn't be King, I guess, without all of that. Next, the character Claudia, for some reason, speaks like David Lynch's character in Twin Peaks, and it's fucking stupid, and I hate it. Another one for you, when Hannah the Giant is defeated, for some reason, one of the other characters pisses on her body. I mean, it's a nice throwback to Rose Madder, but really? Why? So this is less of a reason and more of a request for those of you who have already read Fairy Tale. I am very curious to know what you thought of Empis. Did you find it to be well drawn, and could you picture it in your mind? Did you feel like it had a rich history? Did you feel like you got what was going on there? Because I really struggled, but that could just be because I'm not really a fantasy fan. So, especially if you're a fantasy fan and you've read Fairy Tale, let me know what you thought of it. Did Empis work for you? I admire wholeheartedly King going for it and really building us a completely different new world that he's not done before, and there's a lot to admire there. But it didn't really hit for me. Let me know what you thought. Awesome Sauce. Fuck off. I'm going to pick out a few Easter eggs for you. We had a mention of Inside View, King's favourite fictional tabloid. We have a member of the prison staff called Percy, although in this world he's good. And Charlie's middle name? McGee. Let's see what you did there, King. So lastly, I will end on something, I guess, slightly positive. I remember a lot of the hype around Fairy Tale, with it clearly being a fantasy-driven book. There was all of this speculation that Fairy Tale was going to be a chance for us to go back to Midworld and do something tower related. And well, I just find it really hilarious that King kind of just kept stum on that and didn't take us anywhere near Midworld at all. There's a reference to Long Days and Pleasant Nights, but that's Charlie saying he read it in a book somewhere. I just think it's pretty hilarious that we had 2 books in 2022 and we had Gwendy being set off in space, and we had Fairy Tale, a fantasy book, and one of them was heavy on Dark Tower stuff, and it was the one that was about Gwendy in space. Who'd have thought it? You never know what King is going to do next, and I like to think that he saw all that buzz and just sat there reading it going, nah, that's not what you're getting. That was a bit of a stretch of a reason, wasn't it? I didn't like this book. What can I say? So there we go, 19 reasons to read Fairy Tale, and that's it on the 19 reasons to read Stephen King books, at least for now. He's got another one coming out next year, so there will be more book stuff on this channel coming soon. But if you read this one, let me know what you thought of it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. As you know, I'm not a fan, but I'm sure plenty of you are, so if you did enjoy this in particular, you let me know what you enjoyed about it. I'd be very keen to hear from you. When you've done that, maybe consider clicking around the rest of my channel, have a look at some of my other videos, 19 reasons to read all of his books now, and some specials as well, including, what can I flag for you here? My gift buying guide from last year, maybe check that one out if you like. And don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter as well, and you get my little book for free just for doing that. There's a link to do that in the bottom description of this video. So, even though we've made it through the chronological journey of the books, there's still plenty more coming your way when it comes to King books. So between now and the end of 2022, I've got a bunch of book specials planned for you, which I think you're going to enjoy. And then going into next year, there will still be regular book specials as well. But I'm probably also going to start talking about the movies because I've got a lot of those to cover. And some other things up my sleeve as well, which I will tell you about in the new year. But we're going to start with those book specials next week with one that I know a lot of you have been keen to get from me and have been asking for in increasing volume over the last few months. It's time for me to rank the entire King collection. See you next time for that.